So I just went out and tried to do some drone flying, and it's way too cold to do that. I couldn't even feel my fingers trying to set up the drone, let alone fly it. So we are substituting that idea for a nice YouTube video in the studio, in the warm studio, where I'm not freezing my ass off. So I've been using a base model 2015 MacBook Pro, 13-inch, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, the base model MacBook Pro for 7 years now, give or take. I got it in 2015 for Christmas when I was 16 years old, and now I am almost 23, and I was still using that same MacBook. Now, that MacBook did great, and it got done what I needed it to do, and it has done amazing, and especially since it's lasted that long, no complaints. However, lately I've been editing a lot more 4K footage, I've been doing a lot more photo shoots, and trying to do a lot more YouTube videos as well, and that thing was just really slowing down the process of creating and making videos and doing anything that involved photo or video editing, just because 8 gigabytes of RAM, i5, Intel processor, years old, it was just not doing great. So like back in the day when I got it and I was editing like at max 1080p footage, it was great. And it was the kind of one of the newer ones. 8 gigabytes of RAM wasn't, you know, an awful amount. But nowadays with all the super upgraded cameras, higher bitrate codecs, and just super processor intensive footage and editing, it was time for a change. So I went and ordered one of the new M1 MacBooks. Now, I had been looking at the Apple website, and the only ones they ever had in stock was the 8 gigabytes of RAM and up to 256 gigs of storage, which a good machine, especially with the M1, it seems like 8 gigabytes of RAM is perfectly fine. However, I wanted a terabyte of storage and the 16 gigabytes of RAM. If I was going to be spending the money, might as well go all out and get an upgraded one. So I didn't really want to order one in, and so I was kind of putting it off for a while. One night I just went on to the Apple website just because I was bored, and at my local Apple store they had the 1 terabyte, 16 gigabytes of RAM Space Gray MacBook Pro in stock, and so I couldn't help myself. I clicked order, and the next day I went and picked up my new MacBook, which is sitting behind me right now. So with that, I have a few things to talk about. So first and foremost, the M1 MacBook, I'm just going to spoil it right off the bat, if you haven't already heard, is phenomenal, performs great, especially when you're using Apple applications like Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro. It is a beast of a computer, and there are a few kind of highlights as to why I really enjoy this machine and why I'm glad I just picked one up and didn't wait. And so we'll go over those first, and then we'll kind of jump into some of the downsides of this computer and why I kind of wish I would have waited until the next generation comes out later this year, because I hear a lot of good things about those. But let's not get into that too much. Let's talk about the upsides first before I go into the more negative aspect of this video. So first and foremost, I edit on Final Cut Pro. I use Apple Compressor and Apple Motion for all my other tasks like special effects and compressing footage and making proxies. And then also for audio editing, I use Logic Pro. Occasionally I do music recording as well. All Apple applications. So when this M1 processor came out, which I must say, as soon as I heard that was a possibility, you know, I don't even know how long ago that they would be doing this, that's when I kind of had the thought in the back of my head that I'm gonna wait until this comes out and then I'm gonna buy the new MacBook, even though it was kind of a coin toss as to if it was actually gonna be good switching to a new processor, because Apple's just known first generation things don't do as well with Apple. They usually just need, you know, another generation to dial things in, and to an extent that's kind of the truth here. But for the most part, in terms of performance and usability, these M1 processors are amazing, and Apple Silicon is already just a great movement forward with Apple computers. But since I use the Apple applications, M1 makes a lot of sense. And so Final Cut optimization is one of the big reasons that I went and grabbed one of these, because even if you were to go out and get the MacBook Air, 8 gigabytes of RAM, base model $999, it would edit super smooth on Final Cut Pro. These new system on a chip M1 integrated RAM, whatever Apple calls it, is great, especially on applications that are made for Apple Silicon. So first and foremost, Final Cut Pro optimization, amazing. Also, Apple is known for their laptops and now their Pro Display XDR and their iMacs to have very color accurate and good looking screens. For me, whenever I edit photos, even on my old laptop, photos or color grading, I can't do it on the big monitor here. I use this for cutting and everything except for color grading. And for color grading, I move at least my viewer onto the laptop screen because that's going to be the most color accurate and easy to use screen for color grading. So the screens on these things are phenomenal. These new M1 MacBooks are no exception. They have great screens, and that's another reason I kind of jumped in and got a new one, just because I knew they had upgraded that technology at least a little bit since I got my laptop, 7 years ago. Another reason I jumped in and got it now versus waiting is I heard they're taking away the touch bar, and I personally really wanted the touch bar, and I don't regret that in any way, shape, or form. To an extent, I understand why people like having just the physical buttons at the top, but for me, when I'm doing a lot of editing, and that's, 80% of what I do on the computer is video editing, and having that touch bar, you can scroll through your timeline, you can pick different tools on it. I think it's a super cool integration, and who knows, I may get sick of it in 6 months and wish I didn't get it. But so far, I'm really enjoying the touch bar side of things, and I know that's a very, very unpopular opinion, but I'm glad I got it before they phased out that phase of Apple products. Now, another big thing that I was kind of waiting for is the keyboard, because Apple, in the last couple years of their laptops, have been known to have just really crappy keyboard. Now, they used butterfly keys, which had this really shallow mechanism for the click, and they failed all the time. That was one of the biggest issues people had with these laptops, is that the keyboard was just awful. With these new M1s, they put in a new keyboard, or even they might have gone back a generation, but they have normal keys in there now, or at least an upgraded version of what they had, and it works phenomenal. It feels great. I hated typing on the butterfly keyboard. It just didn't feel great. I had friends who had it, and I would play with it, and I wasn't a fan. The keyboard on this M1 is great. I love it, no complaints. They did a good job moving away from what they had before. Also, with this M1 integration, the battery life on this MacBook is great. I can charge it up, and when I'm video editing and running a monitor, if I don't have it plugged in, it does drain the battery fairly quickly, nowhere close to what my old 2015 was. If I'm just writing notes, if I'm in Notion, or just watching YouTube videos and that's it, not running an external screen as well, battery life is great. I can run this thing for days and no issues. And just overall, I needed a new laptop, so I got one, and I'm super happy with it. But with all of the upsides, there are a couple downsides to this laptop, so we'll go through those just so I'm not one-sided on this argument. So there's really just two big negatives with this laptop. The first being lack of ports. Now, if you go on Apple's website and you look at their 13-inch MacBook Pros, if you were to put the Intel chip in and buy that one, you get 4 USB-C ports. 2 on the right side, 2 on the left side. I'm not a big fan of just USB-C, but if you have 4 of them, I'm cool with that. I would be cool with that being the setup from now on, and they never change it. You can get dongles, and 4 is enough. My hard drive is USB-C, the charger, and really I don't have a lot of other USB-C that I need. I just really an SD card reader, but point being, 4 is great. For whatever reason, if you get the M1 MacBook Pro, you only get 2 USB-C ports. Just on the left side, and then on the right side, all you get is a headphone jack. So the exact same laptop, same price. Intel, you get 4 ports. M1, you get 2 ports. No idea why. I think it's gonna be just a thing that Apple can use to, as an upgrade in the future. So on the next generation, they'll make you pay more for more ports. It's a possibility. But man, I have thought about taking this thing back just because of the ports. Now, I have a dongle on the side of it that is a flush mount adapter, so it just goes into the 2 ports, gives me 2 more USB-C ports, 2 USB-A ports, SD card, micro SD card, and HDMI. Really all I need, but if I could avoid doing that, I would. But I just plug one adapter in, and I have everything I need, so that's cool. But I do wish that I could plug that adapter in and then also have the other side to, put other things, accessories or peripherals into. Point being, ports. It's one of my biggest negatives on this. And my other big negative is something that everyone's kind of gotten used to, but I went from my 2015, which had MagSafe. This one doesn't have MagSafe, and boy, do I miss it. Now, that brings up the point of the next generation. It sounds like they're bringing back MagSafe. They're going to put an SD card slot on the computer and a couple more ports. And yes, I was thinking about waiting for that upgrade, but we're in February. They're probably not going to even have the event until September-ish. So I really didn't want to wait that long for a new laptop. And if they come out with something really groundbreaking later this year, I'm sure I can trade this one in for a pretty good price and get that. But either way, I'm super happy with this decision. M1 MacBooks, great. A lot of YouTubers have said this, and I'm going to reiterate. How you decide if you're going to wait or you're going to get one is, if you need a new laptop now, go out and buy one of the M1s. They are phenomenal computers. There are some downsides, of course, but I feel like every piece of technology has a few downsides. Even my camera does. But if you need a new laptop now, go get an M1. You'll love it. You won't regret it. However, if you don't need one and you just want to run out and get one because the M1 looks cool, you should probably wait for the next generation and see if they upgrade a few things. So go off of your experience, what you think you need and when you need it, and base your decision off that. But I think you'll be happy either way. These M1s are great, and I have had nothing but a good experience on it so far. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today. I just wanted to kind of go through my first impressions of this laptop, because I've been super excited. I've been playing with it for like 4 or 5 days, and that's all I've done is just sit on it and try out all the cool things you can do with M1. But good job, Apple. You did good. I'm excited to see what you come out with in the future. The higher end Mac Pros and iMacs and 16-inch MacBook Pros with M1 are probably going to be super, super cool. So we'll see what happens then. But for now, that's going to be it. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.